Are you a woman in the military thinking about transitioning to civilian life? In this video, I am interviewing military spouse and veteran Amanda Huffman, who separated after serving 6 years in the United States Air Force as a civil engineer, including a deployment to Afghanistan. She traded in her combat boots for a diaper bag to stay home with her 2 boys and follow her husband's military career. She has been recognized as Hill Vets 100 Class 2019, Women Veteran Trailblazer 2021, and was a finalist for the Melissa A. Washington Small Business Award. She published her first book in 2019 titled Women of the Military, sharing the stories of 28 military women. In 2019, she also launched her podcast titled Women of the Military. Women of the Military podcast shares the stories of women past and present and hopes to inspire the next generation of women to serve. Her new book, A Girl's Guide to Military Service, will be released September 13th. Amanda is going to share with you why she decided to transition out of the military, why she is so passionate about helping women join the military, and the importance of telling your story. Hi, I'm Kara, and this channel is all about helping you learn how to transition out of the military into civilian working mom life successfully. If you are new here, give this video a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. I do release a new video every week that will help you reach your full potential, even if you're a military woman juggling it all. Hi, Amanda. Thank you so much for coming on today. I'd love if you could just share a little bit about yourself with the audience.
Hi, I'm a military spouse and a Air Force veteran and a mom of 2 boys, and I'm currently living in Virginia, and I host a podcast called Women of the Military, where I tell the stories of women who have served in the military, and I'm also working on a book coming out in September, A Girl's Guide to Military Service, that's going to help answer questions that girls may have when they're considering joining the military.
Yeah, congratulations on that book. That sounds really exciting and definitely much needed. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that out there.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, be sure to check that out, folks, because I think it's going to be a must read for anyone considering joining the military. So if you want, do you want to just share a little bit about your military background, what you did, and those types of things?
Sure. I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and my career field was civil engineering. That's what I got my degree in. And I started out at Huffman Air Force Base doing environmental and engineering stuff. And the F-22 was coming there, so we had lots of construction. It was a really fun place to be. And then I deployed with the Army to Afghanistan on a provincial reconstruction team where we were going out into the local villages. I was in Kapisa, and we were working to help build schools, roads, government buildings, and other infrastructure. And then when I got home from that, I transferred to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base and worked at headquarters AFMC doing energy management stuff on the energy saving side, and then building projects to save energy.
Yeah. So what made you decide to get out when you did?
So I got pregnant with my son. My husband and I were both active duty the whole time that I was in the Air Force, and with the deployment and being in a civil engineer career field, the deployment tempo was 6 months on, 6 months off.
Wow.
That was the opt tempo. You didn't deploy as often as that, but that was how often you could deploy. And I knew that my window to deploy would be opening up right after I had my son, and then the 6-month window of that you had protection from being deployed. And so I knew that when my son was about 6 months old, I'd probably be going to Afghanistan or somewhere else in the world. And my deployment to Afghanistan with the Army was really hard, and it was a year long with training. And I was like, I don't think I can leave my 6-month-old and come back when he's a year and a half. Added on to all the dual military challenges we faced, that there was lots of factors, but it was the right time to leave.
Yeah, I think a lot of women can relate to that in one way or another. Because I know too, there are a lot of things that I felt like with raising children and then always being at work, or when you were at home, you still felt like you were at work. And yeah, I just think a lot of people are going to be able to relate to that, whether it's deployment related or something else. What would be the number one recommendation you would have for people who are considering transitioning out, or maybe they're already on their way out? What would you recommend that they do?
I would get involved in the veteran community because I feel there's a big disconnect between people who are in the military and veterans, and there's not really a good bridge to get you there. It's kind of like people know about veteran affairs, but that's not really like when I left, I was like, oh, the veteran community, it's the VA, and like that's like a government organization. It's not the community, and there's so many different people that you can connect with and support that you can gain from the military community. Like a really great resource is Veterati, which offers free mentorship where you can meet with different people for an hour one-on-one over a phone call, and that way you can get connected with other veterans, and then that veteran will have a bunch of resources and they may be able to tell you, now that you talk to me, go talk to this person. And I think once you get plugged into the veteran community, your success going forward is even better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's all I really knew of as well was the VA, which, that's really more about your healthcare. So I felt very disconnected when I left the military, and I would go into, veteran Facebook groups, but I still didn't really feel the connection. And then, I met you in the LinkedIn community, and that's definitely one of the places I point people to as well, because it seems like that's where a lot of veterans are hanging out and coming together in the way that I was thinking about it.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to be.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit more about your podcast. I think the audience would really enjoy hearing about the purpose of your podcast and what it's doing.
So I started my podcast because I started hearing the stories of women through a deployment series that I did, and I was blown away by the stories of women in the military, just what they had done. And so I wanted to hear more, and so I wrote the book Women of the Military, and I was trying to figure out how to make that into a blog series or whatever, and a friend suggested that I do a podcast, and so I started the podcast, and I had the stories that are in the book as like my backup in case I ran out of guests. But I never ran out of guests, so that's why it's a book now. But I just wanted to tell the stories of women because I felt really alone as a woman veteran, and I also felt like an outsider because I didn't feel like I fit into the veteran community because of being a mom, being a military spouse, and being a woman. And so I guess I was looking for that community through talking to other women, and I've really found so many amazing women through the podcast that I've become friends with, and just the stories are so encouraging and inspiring because I really relate to them. And then just they do, I mean, women who've served in the military have done so many amazing things, and I just love getting to share those stories, and I love that it's tying into helping inspire the next generation of women to serve.
Yeah, and you're really focusing on helping women as they're joining the military. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything, I don't know if we're going to have anyone watching this that's on the beginning stages, but is there anything that you would want to share with someone who's considering joining the military?
Well, I mean, I have a lot to say. I wrote a book. But I think listening to the podcast and hearing the stories is like a great resource. And then I'm trying to create a mentorship program because I have talked to women who are joining, and they often get told like, oh, the military is not for you because you're a woman, or you can talk to this person, but it's like someone that it's not a woman. And so I wanted to make it so that there were more ways for women to connect with women. And so that's why I think the podcast is a great resource, because if you want to join the Marine Corps and you don't know any women Marines, there's women Marines on the podcast, or any of the other branches. The only one I don't have yet is the Space Force, but my husband's in the Space Force, so I try and put resources out about the Space Force when I can. But
Yeah. And with it being, I guess, relatively new as time goes on, I'm sure a lot more Space Force women will come forward and want to be on your podcast as well. I guess at this point, there shouldn't be too many people who've been in the Space Force that have separated.
Right.
But as time goes on, I'm sure, we're going to hear a lot more from that community as well. That's awesome. Um, so, why are you so passionate about women joining the military or
I,
helping women join the military?
I think it's because the military really changed my life and it opened doors to uh, opportunities that I never expected. I grew up in a small town in California and I never really expected to leave that small town. And I wanted to visit all 50 states, and I'm getting closer and closer to being able to do that. But like when I was growing up, the only state I had been to was California because it was really big and we didn't have enough money to travel. And so I think the military can open doors to a future for people and get them to places that they may not ever think they could get. I was talking to my son yesterday, and my friend just got appointed to Biden's committee for veterans, and he's like, "You know someone who works for the president?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I know a bunch of people who work for the president," which is kind of crazy to think. Like growing up, I wouldn't have known anyone involved really in the government, and now I know women veterans who are advocating on Capitol Hill, and I've met so many other people, and I just think that the military opens doors that so many people can't even imagine they could walk through without having military service.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. We were talking about my son got like star of the week at school, and you had to write like fun facts about you. And my son got to write like, I was born in Germany, and these are just experiences that a lot of other people don't have. I mean, he even at one point, somebody was like, Lincoln's lying. And he had to be like, no, it's like really the truth. He was born in Germany. But yeah, we get so many amazing experiences of traveling. Um, I'm with you there. I think that was one of my favorite assignments was being in Germany. So I love that. Anything else that you would want to share for somebody who might be transitioning?
I think it's really important that women tell their stories. For me, when I left the military, I didn't want to be a part of the veteran community because I just thought I didn't fit. And so I kind of like dove into being a mom and being a military spouse. And it's funny because I have a podcast now where I'm like all about women of the military, but that wasn't the case when I first left the military. I tried to be a mom blogger, a travel blogger, all different types of things, anything that wasn't military related,
Right.
specifically of being in the military. And it wasn't until I like came back to the military and started getting involved that I found like my new purpose. And I think that for women veterans especially, it's really hard to, you might have like resentment towards being in the military, and it's kind of like an underlying resentment where you're just tired of having to like prove yourself. Like I always have to be like, yes, I am a veteran, I know what that means, and like having to prove myself. And so at first I kind of just like recoiled and stepped away from it because it was easier just to fit into the role that everyone expected me to be in. But I think that you could miss out on so many great opportunities to get involved and connect. And when you can connect with other women veterans at like conferences and just making friends across the country, it's really a great resource. So don't shut away from the veteran community. You can still like, you don't have to be crazy like me and like start a podcast about women joining the military, but you can.
Yeah.
But find a way to get involved in the veteran community, even if it's just by connecting through various smaller organizations, attending conferences, listening to Women of the Military podcast, listening to this YouTube channel, all these things.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I think sometimes we have that like stereotypical, like, I don't mean to be mean, but like the old man with the VA hat. Like, I don't know if that's kind of what you were thinking, but that was kind of what I was envisioning with being a veteran. I think everything was just associated with the VA, like we talked about earlier. But yeah, there's so much more to the veteran community. Would you say that you feel more connected to women who've served in the military now that you're out and a part of this veteran community?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel really connected to women all the way from joining to leaving, just because I have so many. I'm so focused on women serving in the military that I think before I was like focused on civil engineering and like what was going on in that area of the career field, and there weren't any other women that I worked with most of the time, except for when I deployed. I got lucky and deployed with another woman, but most of the time it was like I was working with a bunch of guys, and I was focused on that. So I didn't. When I left the military, I didn't have very many women veteran friends, and then we didn't really talk about like what that transition experience was like. We kind of just were like, we're okay, everything's okay, and we didn't really talk about like the challenges or the struggles, and it felt really isolating. And so yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I mean, I had probably more women that I worked with than what you did, just being a mental health provider. But it seemed like as I knew about women, I guess aside from my career field, it felt more like a who's going to win. Like it was very competitive. It felt a little bit nasty and kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But I think it's really good to point out, like, it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of us really want to just connect and lift each other up. And we're not just focused on what can I do to like step over you to get promoted. So I think it's really important to highlight that. Highlighting the struggles that we all experienced. You're not alone, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm missing or that you would like to share that we haven't gone over?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Oh, well, let's talk about your book a little bit more. You said it's being released in September.
Yeah, September 13th it's being published, and I'm really excited about it. It goes from like helping you decide if you want to join the military, and then the decisions that you have to make while preparing to join the military, picking your career field, going through MEPS, getting ready for basic training, like physically and mentally. And then it goes through like some of the challenges that women face, specifically motherhood, military sexual trauma. That's not a woman only issue, but it
Right.
is a issue that women are more likely to face. And what other and a bunch of other topics, anything I could think of about what it was like, and then advice on like how to decide if you should transition or if you should stay in. So it covers like your whole first 4 years of or whatever your time commitment is, to
Right.
help you get through that area of figuring out like what the right decisions are, and relationships, dating, getting married, all those sorts of things, because I don't think we talk about those things enough in the military. And a lot of women who get married end up serving with another service member, and so you're dual military. Or if you're a woman and you're married, like you were married to a civilian, that creates its own challenges. So there's a lot of resources that talking about those types of things and how you make decisions, and other tools that I've found that have been helpful around that.
Yeah, that's going to be so good and help so many people. So even if, you're at a later stage in your career, I'm sure I'm talking to the audience, like I'm sure people who are now thinking about joining the military. I know we have a lot of people that, it runs in families and everything. So be sure to get them Amanda's book. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, Amanda, obviously we've got your two books, and then your podcast. Is there any other way that you would want someone to reach out to you?
The best place to reach out to me is on LinkedIn, or if you have a question and you need to get a hold of me directly, you can email me at airmantomom@gmail.com. And so those are probably the two best places. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook too at airmantomom. But I'm not on there very often.
Yeah, so LinkedIn is the best place to reach Amanda if you want to connect with her. I definitely recommend giving her sending her a message and connecting with her, sharing your story. It's really an incredible experience. My cat just jumped up on the table. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for joining me today. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.